Have you ever found yourself in any one of these situations? A friend calls in tears over the death of a family member, or a coworker confides in you about something difficult that happened to them at work, and you wanted to help but you didn't know what to say. Perhaps you jump in with advice in order to fix the situation and alleviate their discomfort. Maybe you're the one that everyone comes to for guidance, and over the years, you've given so much of yourself to others that you've forgotten how to tend to your own needs. I have experienced all of these things and more in my role as a helper. For over 20 years, I've had the privilege of supporting the well-being of others as a resilience coach and trauma healing educator. I've designed and facilitated programs on college campuses, at schools, healthcare centers, and even farmers markets. And I've been a resource to friends and family in times of need. And I hold this role with great pride and honor. For many helpers, we derive a deep sense of fulfillment that comes from supporting others through compassion and action. I remember when I started teaching restorative yoga classes at the YMCA many years ago. I thought it was absolutely magical that people could come together from all over the city at the end of a hectic day. And after breathing, moving, and stretching together, I noticed a physical glow in their faces and greater ease in their posture. My own well-being had shifted as well. I felt more embodied and my mindset was hopeful. In that moment, I knew that I wanted to dedicate my life to healing. I started working at the University of California, Los Angeles with highly resilient and highly stressed students. I loved hearing my students reflect on how meditation helped them dissolve thoughts of failure and worry. I listened and I carried their stories of triumph and adversity close to my heart. About 4 years into my role, the climate on campus began to shift rapidly in response to growing political and social unrest. I heard more and more stories of trauma, hardship, and pain. One day I was driving home and I was struck with the realization that my jaw was clenched and it felt like frustration was vaporizing off of my skin. I laid awake at night with my thoughts spinning, thinking about one student who was grieving the death of a sibling and another who was facing a major depressive episode. How could I help them navigate their unknowns while dealing with my own? It felt like their needs and my needs were competing against one another. And this all too common paradox for many dedicated helpers often leads to burnout, disillusionment, and an ultimate exit from service-based professions. I had started to doubt my ability to give, and even my desire to. This was a wake-up call for me that led me to examine the process of helping and how we could facilitate spaces of support, much like my early yoga classes, without burning out in the process. We know that quality human connection is a powerful remedy that can help us process our challenges, reduce isolation, and calm our fears. We need empathy and care in order to survive and thrive as a human collective. In a climate in which the need for mental health care is growing, I believe it is urgent that we empower our communities with accessible frameworks which are rooted in our biology, by which we can strengthen the well-being of others while taking care of ourselves in the process. I'm going to share with you now 3 key strategies that I learned in my journey by which we can do just that. Think about the last time you felt distressed about something. What body sensations did you experience? Perhaps you felt your face getting hot, or that you were on an emotional roller coaster that just wouldn't stop. The hand model of the brain offers a simple way of illustrating what happens in our bodies when in a state of distress. Here, your fisted hand represents your brain. Your fingers are the logical part of the brain, which then connect to the limbic area, or the part that regulates emotion. This represents someone who in general is present, alert, and engaged. When we encounter a stress or stimulus from the outside, a rush of sensation rises up through the central nervous system, triggering the amygdala alarm bell. In this moment, our body's fight, flight, or freeze mechanism is activated, and we lose access to more complex reasoning. All of our energy is mobilized towards finding safety and survival, as if reacting to a hungry tiger. Now, the tigers of today don't look like furry beasts. Instead, they come to us in the form of relationship breakdowns, mortgage payments, work deadlines. And some tigers seem to always be lurking, a cancer recurrence, or discrimination due to the color of our skin. Many of us move through our days with our nervous systems either on overdrive or burnout without even realizing it. I remember an instance in which I had returned to my office after a couple of morning meetings. I had only a short amount of time before needing to teach my class in the afternoon. I had sat down to take a bite of my sandwich when a student comes in, visibly distraught. Now my brain was operating something like this, slightly rushed, hungry, and irritable. And my student, who was full of emotion and quite dysregulated, was like this. My immediate impulse was to find ways to make them feel better, but they weren't even biologically available for that. Their prefrontal cortex was not accessible for problem solving. And to be honest, given my own state of mind, I wasn't really present enough to understand what they really needed. And so the first strategy for helping is centered in this very critical moment of the initial connection, where we remember that we are relational beings who on a very basic level are seeking safety and belonging. Our nervous systems can be a tool by which we help someone shift into a greater state of ease and reconnect the levels in the brain, promoting agency and resilience. And supporting this can be simple and very human. In the case of my student, I began by first becoming aware of my own breathing and grounding myself in the moment through my senses. I then invited them to do the same along with me. And as we came present together and felt more connected, I could then ask them, "How are you? How are you really?" Naming and validating what someone is feeling helps them discharge emotion and promotes an immediate sense of relief. We can say that, yeah, it makes sense that you would feel afraid given the situation, and praise them that even though you didn't know what to do, the fact that you came to talk to someone is a powerful step. And as they start to feel seen and heard, notice how the rigidity of their muscles begin to soften, and that perhaps their chest lifts slightly with a sense of pride and possibility, even amidst a lingering uncertainty. This leads us to the next strategy for helping: exploration towards action. I remember sitting with a student once who was distraught over all the barriers that they faced in reaching graduation. They couldn't get adequate childcare, and financial aid wasn't covering the bills. I asked them what they thought their options were, and they immediately said, "I want to quit school." Upon hearing this, my heart skipped a beat and my stomach constricted. In my head, I thought, no, you can't quit now. You've worked too hard to get to this point. But thankfully, I didn't say those words out loud, because what they really needed was for me to meet them exactly where they were at. So instead, I relaxed my body posture in order to release my judgment. And I said, yeah, that's definitely an option. What other options can we also explore? As a helper, your curiosity gives permission for someone to freely explore and clarify their thoughts without judgment, criticism, and shame. We can ask open-ended questions, such as, what barriers do you face in moving forward? And how might we begin to remove them? And make space for their biological system to synthesize the insights that surface. And instead of giving advice, be a witness and invite the next steps to emerge. It could be a shift in a mindset or a simple action that will carry them to the next day. Claiming this intention offers direction and an ownership of the choices that they do have. And so, finally, The third strategy that I wish to share with you is to reset. And this one's for you, the helper in the situation. Our giving comes with a cost. It utilizes a most precious resource, our empathy. As the previous examples highlight, we can replenish and refine our empathy before, during, and after an interaction. Relaxing our breath, letting go of the things that we cannot control, are just some of the practices that can fuel our capacity to give. I remember teaching a healing workshop one evening. At the end of the workshop, I spoke to a vibrant young woman who was expressing heartbreaking pain over the impact of a violent assault. I was angry for her, and I got home feeling irritable and hopeless. I looked at the clock, 8:30. I had only a couple of hours left in my day before I had to do it all over again. In that moment, I made a choice to turn my empathy inward. And much like changing the channel on a television station, I decided to reset my focus and instead found pleasure in a nourishing meal and watching a funny movie. For those of us who have a high degree of empathy and who make ourselves available as an anchor of support, it is okay to take care of your needs even when others are not okay. Open yourselves up to receiving, even if it's only a fraction of the care, grace, and affirmation that you give. Spaces of support where we shift, explore, and reset are critical and can promote greater compassion, inclusivity, and thriving. Imagine a world in which our collective nervous system is a few degrees calmer, where we know what to do with difficult emotions, and we have the skill to shorten our recovery time between states of distress and states of ease. Imagine a world in which caring for our mental health is not relegated to clinical settings alone, but is a responsibility that each one of us takes precious ownership of, knowing that this generates health, stamina, and hope for the long haul. So now, I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Bring your awareness to your breath, to your body. And in the center of your mind's eye, visualize the bodies of those in your community, the people you know, the people you don't know. Imagine your ancestors and future generations. We are here together. And as we navigate this life as one human collective, let us be uplifting mirrors for one another, where through the soft gaze of our eyes and a welcoming posture, we anchor the affirmations that reinforce our sense of belonging. That you are resilient, you are worthy, and you are enough. Thank you.